Hello, hello, and welcome everyone to Overtime. With me today is Azandering and his friend, for lack of a better word, your comfort
Oh,
blanket.
yeah.
Yeah, oh dear Lord.
Say hello to my little friend. I was doing this just for the shock value for you when you came in because you had to go deal with some stuff, which is why we're late. So you just kind of left the room, and I was sitting here all by myself. So I was like, when he comes back, wait for him to come back.
And I was out
So
for.
I know you know that this is all I'm doing the entire time when I'm not on the show. I'm just. Anyway.
Well, and I think hold on. It may be now. Well, no, it's not showing it to the outside, so we'll see. Hopefully, everybody heard all that. It's gonna be awfully weird if people didn't hear that. I'm gonna quickly just check the audio, and I haven't gotten anyone complaining about the audio, so my hope is that they've got it. But yeah, I apologize. I had to leave, and then you were in the room alone. You didn't even know where I was, and the camera wasn't on, so you couldn't see me. And so you must have been doing that for 20 minutes. Then I come back and literally because he's full screen on my end, and he's got the rifle, and I was gonna say he's stroking his rifle, but phrasing. So I just gotta, you know what? Can we do a?
Just said that.
I did just say that, didn't I?
Yeah.
Overtime is supposed to be the show that's a bit more professional. I'm wondering, should we just restart this whole? You know what? I guess it's been one of those days. Welcome to Overtime, ladies and gentlemen. I do apologize for us being late. And it looks like okay, the sound is good. So thank you for that. This is actually just going to be an update on the flooding in the Northwest. The Rittenhouse trial I really thought we were going to have it today, and we had seen some signs that we were going to have it today, and we do not yet have it. So at some point, we are expecting, of course, the verdict in the Rittenhouse trial. I'm going to be heading out to Faithless Forum. I'm going to be leaving tomorrow. So if while I'm out they do that, there's a very good likelihood we won't be able to cover it. I can broadcast from Faithless Forum, but I'm also going to be occupied for most of it. So we will see if you're going to be at Faithless Forum. Hit me up, let me know. I'm going to be interacting and meeting a whole bunch of people. Courtney is going to be there too, and it looks like we may. We may get a chance to do another show with Courtney and or a few other old favorites. So it's going to be a lot of fun. But in the meantime, you can see now. So the Northwest is there's been a tremendous amount of rain, as you can see here. And what I would like to do is. I'm still slightly behind, so I appreciate everybody's patience. You can see, and one of the interesting things about this, it's over the weekend that they had a record amount of rain. It was more rain in that 3-day period than they typically get. Actually, I think it exceeded the record rain for any November in history, and they got it in just that period. Yep. Okay, so it looks like. Yeah, some of the dashboard again. I apologize. We've been. I was running behind. Let me just see if I can get one more thing, because if I can get that, it would make life a lot easier. I can't. So we're showing you some video right now of evacuations. There is a town that is more than 75% underwater, and the entire town has to have been evacuated. And our own man on the scene is wondering, how do you end up in these places?
Well, since I live here, I guess it's not unusual that I would be here.
Yeah, well, yes, it is.
Well, yeah, actually, you're right. It is. I actually don't spend very much time at home.
Yeah,
but I just happened to be coming back from a load, and been talking to the wife over the weekend. She got stranded, couldn't go north, couldn't go south, couldn't go anywhere, lost all power. She spent all weekend that way. I think finally power came back Wednesday. So what was that, yesterday? Today's Thursday, yeah. So they got power back yesterday. They finally got the road open so she could at least get to a store yesterday. So yeah, it's a mess up here. Trying to drive around is a nightmare because so many places, so many roads are closed that there's only so many thoroughfares that go through. Last night, trying to get here to this truck stop because I ran out of hours, so I had to stop at this truck stop. It took me 20 minutes just to get off the highway. I had to park on the shoulder. There's a long line, several mile long line trying to get off this exit because this is the only exit that actually goes through to a couple of towns. So it's one of the only thoroughfares that's still open. In Sumas, north of here it gets worse. This is the lower end of where it was bad, and from here north it gets really bad.
So now, and then you described medevacs, and I'm going to put this one up here. So they've been having to the roads have been cut off, so they haven't been able to get people to hospitals, medical attention, or even out of the area. The flooding is so bad that people can't get out by car, so they're having to evacuate them. This is a picture right here of just some of the flooding. And you had said there were the area you were in. There's only 4 ways in or out, and they're all disconnected. Yeah,
that picture. Yeah, the one picture that you showed that had the 3 side by side.
Yep.
They that picture is in British Columbia, just north of here. I'm only 20 miles south of the Canadian border. The Lower Mainland in British Columbia, which is the Greater Vancouver area, it is a big giant valley, and in order to go anywhere else in Canada from there, you either have to take a ferry and go out in the water and around, or there's only 4 highways that leave that area. There's Highway 97, Highway 1, Highway 5, and Highway 3. If anybody ever watches the Weather Channel and have seen the show Highway Through Hell, that takes place. It's based out of Hope, British Columbia. That's the farthest east you can go before you go into the mountains.
Okay.
It's right at the foothill of the mountains. There's 3 highways that leave from there. 97 goes north. It's up where they held the Olympics up in Whistler, British Columbia. That's where they held the Olympics. It goes up and curves through the mountains. It's a high mountain road. Landslides shut it down. The picture here that has the 3 images here. The one on the left is Highway 5. That is the Coquihalla Highway. Most of the bridges that go across rivers going up the Coquihalla look like this. The sections where the bridge runs into back onto land right on both ends have given way.
Yep.
The one on the far right is Highway 1. Goes up into the Fraser Canyon, and that's a train trestle.
Expand this here too. So let me. I can make this a bit bigger, and I should be able to zoom and give everybody a complete image of any one of these. So let's. You wanted to start? Did you mention the one on the right first? Or the one on the. I think you already.
Yeah, looking at it would be the one on the left. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, the one on the right there. That is Highway 1. That's in the Fraser Canyon, and there's a section. It's a little ways up there. There's a railroad that runs up through there too. That you can see the railroad on top, and then the road snakes under it like this. Well, when you look at it, you can see they've got some pictures of this. So those support pylons, go 75 feet into the ground for the railroad trestle. They're exposed. That's the entire highway going up. It's the only highway going up the Fraser Canyon. It's completely closed down. And that's not a quick fix. It's not like that they're going to be able to get that road running anytime soon. The Coquihalla, all the bridges are out. That was the picture on the left where all the bridge decks where they actually come off the bridge and down onto the land. Those have all collapsed, most of them. There's several bridges that are even worse than that picture. And then there's several landslides on Highway 3, which follows kind of the U.S.-Canadian border along the bottom. You can't get out of British Columbia. Or the Vancouver area.
Okay, so that whole area is cut off. Now, this is what's interesting about this too is, if those pylons run 75 feet down, and this is clear, you can tell it's more than 75 feet of erosion too. The entire everything underneath that both the road and the train there has been, and actually I have another I do have another one of a train tracks up that I'd like to. So there's the middle one, and then you were talking about the left one. So let me go get the one on the left there. So anyways, please continue.
Yeah, so that's British Columbia. They got hit, I think, the worst just because of the way things are set up. You have the Sumas Prairie, Sumas, Washington, excuse me, it is about 24 miles north of where I live, and it's one of the border crossings into Canada. Sumas is 75% underwater. The entire town has been evacuated, and that leads up into the Sumas Plain up in British Columbia. It's where Abbotsford, Chilliwack, etc. is. That whole area is essentially, traditionally a lake bed, and many moons ago it was a lake. Well, they've built canals through there. They have a pump house station. They've essentially drained out that lake bed, and it's all farmland mostly, along with a couple of towns that are there. Well, the pump house got overwhelmed and then flooded and then failed. They tried to save it and they couldn't. Just too much water coming in. It failed. It is now a lake again. The Sumas Prairie is now a lake again. It has flooded the whole area. You can't get from the Vancouver out to Hope. That whole, because you have to go through the Sumas Valley to get there, or the Sumas Plain to get there. And that, of course, has come all the way down into Washington. It's flooded Ferndale. It's flooded Everson. It's flooded Sumas. Plus, there's numerous rivers out here. We have the Skagit. We have the Nooksack. Those are the two major ones, both completely flooded over. And so, yeah, Bellingham, Washington, Blaine, Washington, all of those little towns up around essentially Bellingham completely flooded out. And it's been a nightmare and a mess, and hundreds of millions of dollars worth of damage I think has been done by the storm. If you count the damage done in Canada as well, it's kind of one big valley area. So people are trapped in Hope. They can't go up into the mountains because all the roads are washed out. They can't go back into Vancouver because the road is completely flooded and underwater. Here's a picture. I'm not sure exactly how much lag we've got at the moment, but on my screen there's a picture where it's a big top, and they look down and you can see all of the flooding. Most of these pictures that are running through from the Guardian are of the Sumas Prairie, and the whole thing's a floodplain. That's what it looks like. The actual interstate, which they don't call them interstates in Canada, is underneath of that water. So it's in some places it's gotten 10, 15 feet deep. So the railroad crossing into Canada through Sumas has train cars that were derailed, so they're just kind of laying on their sides in there. There's this whole area is got large numbers of dairy farms. So all of the dairy farms, the livestock's being trapped, and so there's still livestock everywhere. They're now trying to get livestock out of these lakes. So yeah, it's been, and now I'm going to turn this around for a second.
Well, hold on a second, because your camera's not on. What I'm going to do actually is I'm going to switch you so that instead of seeing me, you're going to see the feed as it's going out, so that you aren't going to have a delay. You'll see exactly what we're sending, so that there you go. And so what I'm going to do is, and I can white box you if you would like, but before I do that, let me, I will take, so let's see, we had that one up, and then that was the one you were referring to a second ago, and then here we are. So this is the live feed, and you are showing, that looks like what you're seeing right outside your window. So let me white box you really quickly. So we're going to put, this is Andring's camera. We're going to put that up.
So here we are. This is the southmost part. Let's clear the windshield a little bit so you can see a little bit better. So after record-breaking rain, it cleared up a little bit. They've been trying. It is now raining again, and not the kind of normal misting rain. It's actually raining again. So the last thing that they need is yet more rain. And the issue with it is mostly up in the mountains. The flats down here, it's only so much area, but when it rains up in the mountains, it all gets funneled into the channels down into the rivers, causes the rivers to rise. And so now it's raining again. After receiving massive record floods, I don't think that the flooding has been this bad since they've actually kept records. So it's not been pleasant up in this area. Lots of people have lost everything that they have.
Well, and the livestock has been a serious problem. I mean, I'll be honest. You look at the pictures; some of them do seem kind of funny until you realize that, of course, these are living creatures, and they're also everything that's keeping some families afloat. So that was not intended to be a pun, but in terms of financially, if you have a farm, like you said, most of this is farmland. If you have a farm, if these animals die, that's the end of the living for your family. So. You can see great efforts are being made in these cases to get these animals out alive, but it's obviously extraordinarily challenging. And we can see there's
'cause you have hundreds ahead of livestock, and there's a lot of horses up here too. So there's a bunch of people with a lot of horses that are trying to get out, and further, we produce hay up here, quite a lot of hay for our dairy farms. All of that's been wiped out. The hay storage, the hay's been pretty much ruined because it's now underwater. All of the barns, all of the houses. It's been pretty bad.
Now, I heard too that the logging has actually contributed to this. That there's been heavy logging in the area, and that has contributed to the. I forget what the kind of logging is. I'm gonna look that up in a minute. But do you know anything about that?
Clear cutting.
Clear cut. That was it.
Yeah, they've got areas. I mean, this is a very large logging area. I don't know what year was it? 2013. I know Obama was president. There was a landslide in Osoyoos, Washington. Pretty much wiped out the entire town, killed like 23 people. It actually made national news. President Obama came out and viewed the area, gave a speech. So it actually killed quite a few people, wiped out almost the entire town. Half the side of the mountain came crashing down. And they had found that the logging practices that had been used weren't they weren't laid out correctly. So, they have to do it in such a way so that you don't just lose huge sections of the mountain coming down. So there are certain angles and certain places, and they found that it had not been adhered to, and that contributed to the side of the mountain coming down and wiping out Osoyoos, Washington. Well, we have logging is a very big industry up in the Northwest. Lots and lots of trees up here, and so there's large areas, large tracts where they do go through and they clear cut just about everything, and they do it in sections. So you can look around some of the mountainsides, and it's like a patchwork quilt. This area has no trees. This one does, and many of those places, if it gets too much water in it, well, there's not a whole lot holding the ground together anymore, and they're all on slopes because we're right at the base of the Cascade Mountains. So, logging has definitely contributed to some of the landslide problems that we've had, though I'm not entirely sure that they were planning when they started, the plans for all the plots that they could log, that they were expecting this much water at once. So that has caused some problems.
Well, and that's the other thing is, and they have the same problem in California. In fact, in California, where they're basically in a perpetual state of drought, they actually set aside a good deal of water specifically to feed or to water the landscaping, trees, plants, so on and so forth. And the reason for that is because if they don't do that, they're going to end up with mudslides. So it's actually it's the entire state is in a drought. They need to save as much water as they can. Yet you see beautiful landscaping. Well, the reason is because it's a public health issue. You have to have the landscaping, or else A, they dry up and you get fires, and B, without the roots in the ground, you just get massive mudslides. And so I don't have that photo right now. I apologize, but there was a photo of the clear cutting and a huge swath of the clear cutting, and it looks like that's been part of the problem. And so now what you had said happened was the pumps failed. It looks like there's been some fires, some electrical fires, something shorts out, and then we get a fire. The pumps failed, and the pumps are essentially what keep the water out from what used to be a lake. Is that right? And you said that earlier, but I want to just touch on that one more time. Do I have that right? Yeah,
the Sumas Prairie used to be a lake. Now, it had kind of drained out and was a very shallow lake, and then as people, moved into the greater Vancouver area. It's called the Lower Mainland in British Columbia, and it extends east from Vancouver, British Columbia. And it's all big, flat, nice, fertile ground for farming. You have, again, lots of dairy farms, lots of crop farms. We do quite a lot of silage hay, usually for feed for the dairy cows. Edeline Dairy is right up here. It's one of the bigger nationwide chains. So they have problems with that area flooding because it used to be a large lake. And the Fraser River used to dump right into it. The Sumas River used to dump right into it. Well, as they started spreading out, obviously we needed more space, so they started building some canals to reroute the water through. They built a pump station to keep water from, collecting and turning into a lake. And they said that if the pump stations and canals failed, that it would take something in the neighborhood of several weeks for the lake to kind of fill back in. They've had so much water and runoff from the recent rains that now they're talking about it happening in a few days. And of course, you can see the really broad pictures that you see with the huge massive flooding from up high, like the picture right now.
Yeah,
that's the Sumas Prairie, and that's the main highway running through there. And that whole area has pretty much turned back into a lake. And the pumps failed. It couldn't keep up. They got water into the pump house itself. It had several, pumping stations running at once, and it just got overwhelmed. And now that it broke down, they couldn't pump anything out, and it's now a lake again.
Well, and if you look, you can actually see the outlines of the mountains. So you can see the valley, you can see mountains all around it. So all this used to be lake. And how deep, I don't know, but the mountains are reasonably high enough, I have to believe. So let's see, if the house there, if that house is 80, 100 feet with a silo. So no, you have to believe that all of this would be completely submerged if the lake fills completely back in. And here you can see the mountains off, so you can see exactly where this lake used to be. And it's filling in quickly. Do you know what the weather is supposed to be like for the next couple of days?
Well, it wasn't supposed to be quite this rainy as far as I know, but it's still supposed to be rainy. So I'm really hoping that they don't get, or that they keep to kind of the lower forecasted amount of rain. But any amount of rain at this point is not good. It's just going to continue to contribute to a problem. And over the last couple of days, they've gotten quite a lot. They've done quite a lot. We have power back at our house. They've gotten I-5 has been reopened. I think they got it open Wednesday. There were landslides across I-5 shutting it down. There was flooding across Highway 9. Those are the two major routes going north. There was Chuckanut Road. Those are the only three routes going north. Major, that actually go north. There's some side roads, I guess you could try and cut through that go through different neighborhoods and try and get bounce back and forth between one of those three routes. And all three were shut down Tuesday. They started reopening again Wednesday. Thankfully, some of them, like I-5, is just some landslides because it cuts right through a bunch of mountains. So they actually cut the road right into it. Chuckanut Drive, beautiful drive, is out next to the coastline. It's in the Puget Sound, but it's still, ocean coast. And it's built into the side of a mountain. There's rail lines that run across there too. So it's on one end it's straight up, on the other end it's straight down, narrow road. So yeah, that much rain caused a lot of debris. Plus there was quite a lot of wind over the weekend as well, helping to blow down trees and uprooting them and causing even more problems.
Well, and this is now the second time this year that this precise area has been hit with a weather disaster, or at least extraordinarily unusual weather. For most of the summer, they were under a heat dome, and what happened was the confluence of heat radiating off the planet Earth and the way the jet stream was going. For some reason, there was a disruption in the airflow, and the airflow actually went over a dome of heat that was created that created a record heat wave in this exact same spot that you're seeing now. Over the summer, they had a heat wave The temperature was normal all around this area, but in this particular area, all of the regular current, and I believe I'd read the jet stream, but the jet stream is on the other side. Well, no, it actually could be the jet stream. It should be. So I think it's the jet stream. Ended up getting pushed over a dome of air, so no air was getting out of this area, and they had a record heat wave. Now, that particular phenomenon, to the best of my knowledge, didn't contribute to this, but they have now been struck by another weather-related phenomenon, which is what they described as a repeated, multiple these repeated over sort of really high atmospheric storms that ended up just dropping one storm after another. But they were these tiny bands of storms, and unfortunately, I don't have the video for this either. But you can see just these very narrow bands of storms that created essentially a river of storms, where it was just one storm after another, piling into each other and going right over this area. Didn't hit anywhere else, just hit this area for 2.5 days. And yes, both of these are considered to be extraordinarily rare, actually probably unique events as a direct result of the changing environment. And so just this area has been hit hard. I'm hoping and I assume they can get it under control. Well, obviously they can. They got the water out in the first place, but any more rain and they've already had to cede at least one town to the water, and it's going to be a while before they can even get. Now, you said they were having supply issues. Yeah, all the roads in and out are gone. I imagine they're having supply issues.
Yeah, well, and I was reading some of the different articles because, like I said, the biggest, I think, economic damage has been the lower mainland in British Columbia. The port of Vancouver, I believe it was something like 75 or 80% of all of the goods that go into Alberta, British Columbia, which is the next province east of British Columbia, receives their goods through the port of Vancouver. You cannot get any goods by truck or train from the port of Vancouver to anywhere else.
Is actually the largest. Vancouver is the largest port in Canada, I believe. And
yes, it is.
Yeah, so it's complete. It's completely down. So this affects the entire country.
Yeah, and the lower mainland is kind of isolated. If you look at the geography of it, there's a really large floodplain, which again used to be a lake, and it about half of it, well, a little more than half of it, is in Canada, and then there's a significant portion of it in Washington as well, which is in Whatcom County, right up next to the border. So if you look at it just geographically, you can't really tell where Canada ends and the U.S. begins, because that's all part of the same plain, and it's fairly flat. And it's pretty impressive when you can look at the nice flat plain, and then the mountains suddenly shoot up, and they just shoot straight up. And the reason it's such a fertile area, why they have so much farmland, is because, again, it used to be a large lake, so all of the sediments that were coming down out of the mountains would settle. So it has some would settle on the lake bed, and that's what made it such a fertile ground. And so like Chilliwack, for example, Chilliwack and Abbotsford both have been completely evacuated, and they're side by side. Chilliwack's a little farther east of Abbotsford, and they're both completely underwater. Several of these pictures are looking out towards Chilliwack, because that's where you really get away from start going out into the farmland, and it's all pretty mumuch underwater. So. And then it extended also down into the Nooksack River, overflowed, took out Everson, Washington, is underwater. So yeah, it's Ferndale has had a lot of problems. Bellingham has had several problems. So yeah, it's there is water everywhere, and there still is. I mean, and then there's localized areas where several of the different smaller rivers flow through, because Western Washington, there are a lot of rivers out here, and it gets even worse. I mean, not only did we have the heat inversion that happened, we had temperatures. Our normal temperatures are usually in the upper 80s during the winter or during the summertime. That's about average. We were hitting temperatures 114 to 116 for a week straight, and that was set records, all kinds of records. It dried up quite a lot of smaller tributaries to some of the rivers. Now, these are all salmon spawning grounds. You know, all of our rivers out here are full of salmon, and many of these salmon, the numbers are decreasing. There's a lot of concerns over, you know, the salmon, and Washington has been putting quite a lot of money into trying to restore many of these salmon tributaries and spawning grounds, you know, to try and fix it up so, you know, we can encourage, you know, more habitat for them. So we've been spending quite a lot of money, and a lot of those, there was just one near my house where it went underneath Highway 9 that they're redoing it, and it's kind of a seasonal stream as well. All of that money that they spent to redo that is now gone because it washed out. So there's been many places where that's happened. Plus, it strips out a lot of the gravel. It dumps a lot of silt and stuff on the gravel beds in some of these tributaries and these smaller rivers where the salmon are spawning. So it's done quite a lot of damage to. Plus, the landslides just completely rerouting rivers has done quite a lot of damage to the salmon habitat. So there's been a lot of future problems that are going to arise from this as well, not just, you know, ecological problems, I should say. You know, plus we just lost, you know, one of the largest ports on the west coast of all the west coast. You know, if I recall correctly, the port of Vancouver is larger than the ports of Seattle and Tacoma combined, and Portland, and only like the ports of Long Beach and LA are larger than Vancouver's port. That's a huge port.
Well, and I think that's probably one reason why the U.S. media hasn't been covering this particularly, is because, I mean, this has hit the U.S., but not nearly as hard as it's hit Canada. I mean, this is the damage to Canada, depending on how long that port is out, could be really quite significant.
Oh, yeah, and this comes on the heels of, you know, a time where we're already experiencing supply chain restrictions and issues. So, you know, panic buying has been an issue. They've been trying to get people to stop panic buying because it's really difficult, especially in the Vancouver area, to get goods there. It's a little bit easier, like where I'm currently at, because I'm in Mount Vernon, Washington, and everything's open to here. There's no restrictions from here south. It's from here north that you start running into problems. So there was a question Titan asked, what happens when it freezes, which I assume it will soon. Actually, no, it doesn't generally freeze in this area of Western Washington. The temperatures usually hover around 40 degrees in the wintertime. It does occasionally get to freezing, but it never stays that way for very long. You know, maybe a week at the most in the wintertime.
All the way up to Vancouver,
get some snow. Yep.
Okay.
It's because we're all at sea level. And so, you know, it doesn't generally freeze in this area, not along the Puget Sound. And it's not unusual for it to freeze, but it wouldn't freeze long enough or hard enough or the temperature drop low enough to significantly freeze any water, for example. You know, lakes and stuff don't freeze over here.
All right, so $2 super chat from the Sinister Porpoise. The Red Cross will take your donations. I think that's an excellent point, and I think there are a number of organizations that I am a big fan of. The International Red Cross and the American Red Cross are two spectacular ones. Doctors Without Borders, of course, certainly I think at this point the Red Cross is always a place you kind of can't go wrong donating to the Red Cross. So if it's something that, you know, if you feel inspired to help now, I think is a very good time to do it. So I hope if you're watching this stream, you'll think about that. And thank you very much, Porpoise, for mentioning that. I think that's important. So thank you. Definitely the Red Cross.
There's been a couple of there's been a couple of deaths, and of course politics apparently must rear its ugly head in every situation. There was a specific one that caught quite a lot of local attention here. There was a family, I believe it was a Garcia family. Please do not quote me on that because I may have that last name incorrect. That lost their father in Ferndale, Washington. There's a stream that runs through the middle of Ferndale. It was overflowing late one night. the father was out doing something. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if the article actually said what it was he was doing, but he was out in the floodwaters trying to do something, and then he ends up calling. I believe it was his son, saying, "Help me! I need help. I've been swept away." And they called for help, and according to the Garcia family, nobody showed up to actually help until like the next morning. And then they were only there for a little while to look for him and then kind of disappeared again. They did end up finding him. I believe it was yesterday. He was deceased. And obviously the family is in quite a lot of pain and mourning. You know, they just lost their father. And the daughter went on Facebook and went on kind of a rant about the emergency services not coming out to help them, that they didn't seem to, from their point of view, to have been lifting a finger, to really help them. You know, they had to get on social media and they had to gin up some support for people to go actually look for her father. And she stated that she believed it was because her last name was Garcia that they received no help, implying that, you know, it was racistly based help. You know, not like the rest of the county was completely underwater and needing help as well, and emergency services being stretched way beyond the point of ever being able to help everybody that needed it. But, you know, that caused quite a big stir as well.
Yeah. And I did, to call back to, so I found the, we talked about the heat dome, and yeah, so it was atmospheric high pressure. It actually did move the jet stream. The jet stream couldn't continue through it, and actually ended up going over this dome. And so once the jet stream kind of readjusted over it, it just kind of got stuck there and wasn't clearing it. And the temperature in the town of Linton hit 121 degrees. Linden. Okay, thank you. Hit 121
Linden,
degrees
Washington.
Fahrenheit, which obliterated the previous record for anywhere in Canada. I mean, Canada. In the U.S., you can hit temperatures like that. It's rare.
Oh, it was in Canada.
Yeah, this was in Canada. And let's
what
see.
What did you say the name of it was? Because Linden is in Washington. So
Linton,
I thought you were talking about Linden because they got close.
Yeah, Lytton.
Oh, yeah, Lytton.
Lytton, thank you. That sounds right. Okay, yeah, so Lytton hit 121 degrees, and it was a record heat wave. They continually they broke numerous records, but the one that they now hold is 121, which is hottest anywhere ever recorded in Canada, and they were stuck that way for a huge part of the summer. So, and they're right along. They are. Where are they in relation to all of this? Well, they're right along that same. Let's see.
Yeah, they're. It's right along the Fraser River in the Fraser Canyon, if I recall correctly.
It's basically it's essentially the same area that got hit by the river, the river of storms as it was described. So, and let's see. I think they said. In British Columbia, 486 heat-related deaths over the summer from that just in that area from the heat dome. So, and then you said so it killed a lot of crops. They reseeded, and now that's all gone because of the
Yeah, it caused lots of problems because we have again. A great number of dairy farms up here, plus things like blueberry farms, kiwis. You know, we export all of this stuff. We have raspberries, strawberries. There's a lot of things that, you know, a lot of berries that are done up here. And the winter killed a lot of those crops. Plus, we do a lot of hay and silage corn. Silage corn is feed corn that they grow it up there, let it dry out, then they cut it down, and it gets all chopped up nice and fine, and it's fed to the cows. So, and we do rotating crops too, in the same summer. So they'll start with some grass, they'll cut it for hay, then they'll go back through and they'll plant silage corn, and it grows up, and then they cut it, and then they'll do another grass crop, all in the same summer. That's that's how rich the ground is. We get enough water, plus they use quite a lot of the manure, cow manure. It gets stored into a big basin and liquefied, and then it's sprayed. It's the aroma of the valley. It's sprayed out onto these fields for fertilizer to cause essentially supercharged growth. So you can often get like 3 different crops out of one field. Well, the summertime, a lot of those fields died off. They didn't do very well, so we didn't have nearly the silage for the cows. We didn't have nearly the hay production that we normally do. People have been scrambling to try and get hay. My wife happens to own a horse and a miniature horse, so for us trying to find hay locally was very, very difficult. Nobody had any because that heat killed off so much stuff. A lot of our berry imports. We have several wineries up here for berry type wines. So yeah, that caused a lot of issues. And throughout the summer they were doing the salmon habitat improvements, which we spent a lot of money on. And these flooding has destroyed a lot of that. It has completely taken out most of the blueberry farms. It's taken out almost all of the dairy farms in the area. So yeah, it's been very devastating, agriculturally devastating.
And what we have right now, as of 12 hours ago, they are predicting record rains next week. They're saying they are now torrential rain is forecast starting Sunday in this exact area. So that's what they're looking at.
So yeah, the Sumas Lake is going to be, looks like Sumas Lake is going to be a lake again.
Yeah. So I don't, yeah, and let's see, they've got 300 stranded at Camp Hope alone. And they said also, I guess, and the other problem was, I guess there was a number of fires, and those not only displaced a few people, but damaged the vegetation, which is normally what would slow the water. So at this point, we have high heat, record-breaking heat in this area during the summer. Between that, the logging, and a number of fires, you now have record flooding. They got, again, in 2 days, they got more rain than they've ever had in the month of November. And right now, the weather forecast is for record rains coming to this area starting Sunday. Although it looks like, I mean, you showed your camera. We'll put that back on, but I mean, it's still raining right now. But the forecast I saw said torrential rains starting Sunday. So that's where we stand.
Yeah, I was just looking at the next. Yeah, when I looked at the one weather report, I was just looking over the next 2 days, and they were calling for scattered rain showers, and there were 2 different sites. One had more significant rain than the other, but it is actually raining. In the Pacific Northwest, wintertime is pretty much just nonstop rain. It rains all the time. Western Washington on the Olympic Peninsula has the United States' only temperate rainforest. There's a couple up in Canada as well, and it's also that area is the only place in North America with temperate rainforests. But the rain that we normally get is kind of a misting rain. So if you think about it, how going out, especially if you're like the Midwest or along the Gulf Coast or anywhere down there, you think of a rainstorm and you think, that's pretty significant rain falling down. You can walk out and almost take a shower in it. That's not really true here. It's light, small raindrops. It's almost a mist. And that's usually mostly the kind of rain that we're getting, and we just get it all winter long. This is depression rates in the Pacific Northwest are particularly high, especially in the wintertime, because it's always, well, you can see my camera. That's what it's like most of the winter here, all the time. This has been more like thunderstorm, Gulf area or Midwest thunderstorm type rain, where you could walk out and literally like take a bar of soap and take a shower in it. So that's unusual to be getting that much rain at one time. And of course there's rivers and tributaries to the rivers, creeks, streams, lakes all over the place on Western Washington. Washington is pretty much entirely powered by hydroelectric because of all of the, and Oregon as well, because of all of the dams generating electricity. So there's a heck of a lot of water that runs through here, and when you start getting significant rainstorms like this, it always causes flooding issues, and this has been record-breaking.
So what we're going to do is, I did get one more piece of footage. I did want to look into that. The Air Force has been deployed, and other military units have been deployed. I was looking into that, but I found this footage also from The Guardian. I'd like to play this, so let's put this up. Let's give this a shot here. Actually, well, yeah, I can probably get some audio on this too, so hold on a sec. No, I'm not going to be able to get audio on that. All right, so this is just a lot of this is video of the footage that we've already seen. This is the largest port in Canada cut off. Vancouver port has been cut off. That's also larger than most ports, I guess, on the west coast of the U.S., as Andering, who knows 10 times more about this than I do, has said. Again, right now they are expecting torrential rains next week. Now she's saying her uncle's house is in the water. Her cousin just had a baby. They had to evacuate their house.
Plane.
Okay, and then actually I want to go back to yeah, okay, so let me see if I can.
If you go back to where the railway, if you can go back to the railway just before it,
we're going to play this at half speed.
Rescuing the cow.
Okay, there's the rescuing cow.
Just before this point right here. There.
Yeah, we'll
okay,
play this
that
at half
right
speed.
there. Remember when I was... Yeah, that right there is the train trestle and Highway 1 in the Fraser Canyon that I was talking about, where that goes down 75 feet. You can see the exposed pylons.
Yeah, let me go
That's
back
in the
there.
Fraser Canyon.
Pause that, okay. So,
yeah, that was that overhead picture that we saw. That's what it looks like on the ground. And I drive through there fairly frequently. Won't be for a while, obviously now.
yeah. All right, like I said, I can't get audio right now, but her cousin had a baby. They've lost their house.
Yeah, I've been seeing, especially on Facebook for the local groups around here, all of the people that are just filming, the feet of water in their houses.
So again, Washington State. I mean, this is Washington State, and it's not nearly as bad here as it is there. But you can see the roads are completely. So that's 50,000 households and businesses, no power on Tuesday. You said you just had your power restored. Was it yesterday?
Yeah, early in the morning yesterday. Like at 2, I think it was 2 in the morning, 2 or 3 in the morning. Which was actually ahead of schedule. They were estimating it wouldn't be until 5 in the afternoon, and they actually got it on like 12 hours early.
Well, that's good.
Wife was very happy about that.
Okay.
And, it's like I actually still can't even get to my house. So not from here, not with my semi. If I had a regular car, I probably could get through because there's still water over the road. And I won't take the semi because I will break the road.
You were going home, and you're in your And fans of the show know you're a trucker, and but you can't. Yeah, you're not going to be.
Yeah, and it wasn't until today that I could even get up to. Yesterday afternoon, they actually reopened I-5, so I could get back to up into Bellingham, because our yard, our office, where I'm based out of, is east of Bellingham, out by Everson. And that whole area was flooded, and I couldn't, because of landslides on I-5 and water covering the road on Highway 9. Those are the only two routes that a semi can take north out of Mount Vernon, and both were closed until yesterday. So I stopped here because the wife could come get me here, and I was doing stuff today, and she brought me back down here. And so I'm going to try and get once we get finished here, and I finish my in-town shopping and stuff that I need to do, then I can get my truck back up to our yard, up through Bellingham. So
when I answered the freak who said there's no way, that it must have been the heat index, not the heat. Nope, that was the heat. That was the actual temperature. And you can look that up. I think you'll find it. They had it at, I think it was 49.1 degrees Celsius, and they converted it for me. If I remember, that was it. But they converted it for me to Fahrenheit. That's what made it. They completely obliterated every heat record anywhere in Canada. And I forget the name of the town. I'll look it up again if I can find it. In fact, yeah, actually, I think I got it. Lytton. Thank you. L-Y. Lytton, Canada, 110. That was not the heat index. That was, 121 degrees Fahrenheit. That was the temperature. So
ambient air temperature.
Yeah, and again, that was because of the heat dome. That was over the summer. That was its own crisis, and now that same area is suffering this. So, and again, now more rain's coming. So I do want to remind everyone of what Sinister said, which was American Red Cross, and it's one of those things where we're everybody's feeling the pinch in one way or another because of supply chain issues, because of COVID. So it's don't put yourself in the poorhouse helping other people, but if you can, I think it's a good thing to take some time. And this is something that's affecting everybody. But and I saw now they're saying thousands. There's no actual number yet, but thousands of livestock are dead, and they said hundreds more stranded. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, that's utterly insane. So that's why we decided to cover it.
Yeah, the local, like I said, this will actually have, especially in Canada, and a little less so here in the United States, but it's going to have a noticeable economic impact. It's going to send ripples through the economy. Like I said, there's a lot of dairies. There's a lot of Milky Way, which is a very large dairy. They distribute a whole bunch of milk all over the West. So yeah, it's and then those dairies are now pretty much dead. They're trying to rescue the livestock. They're rescuing maybe 10% of the livestock. With all of the efforts that they see, they can only get maybe 10%, because a dairy can have 200-300 cows. And if they're out in a big flooded field, well, you need to have a place to put them as well. And all of the places where you can put livestock are in the fields that are now flooded. So, and there's no food to feed them. So yeah, it's going to devastate the local economy around here. All of the local wineries that specialize in things like raspberry wine, all of the berry places that do blueberries, raspberries, not so much blackberries, but all that's pretty much gone. It's dead. It's killed everything off. Strawberries, those are all big. Up in Canada, they do quite a lot of kiwis. All those places have been killed off. So yeah, try to recover from that. It's going to take a long time.
Well, you can see everyone here rescuing them. You can see two cows here. They're basically up to their snout, I guess. I don't know what that is, what you call it on a cow. But,
yeah, they're swimming. They're actually swimming.
They are swimming. I didn't realize they could swim. Okay,
yes, they can.
Okay, well, there you go. But you can see, too, that the only way they're getting them
out... They're not good at it.
Yeah. But the only way they can get them out is on jet skis. So it's a catastrophic situation, and again, more rain coming. So what I think I'd like to do at this point is start to wrap it up, and remind everybody. So first of all, please always like the stream. It really does. And I've noticed other YouTube content creators are starting to say this, and it's definitely true, which is it does help in the algorithm. It really does. It's a great way to, it takes no time. You just sit there, like, subscribe, hit the bell so that you get the notifications, because I haven't been doing that on the content I like, and I was sitting there going like, why aren't I getting notified? And then Mr. Titan Smartass was like, well, did you hit the bell? And it turns out even if they're streaming and if they're subscribed, it doesn't even light up on my thing when they're YouTube. So do that and help us out. We're actually now also on Odyssey, and looking forward to giving that a shot. I think that's gonna be interesting. As I said, I'm gonna be out of town.
Also commenting.
Yes. Oh, yes. Definitely. Leave a comment.
Commenting is a huge thing for interaction.
Absolutely. Leave a comment. Let us know what you think. We do get back to the comments. As Andrew gets back to the comments, I get back to all the comments. I read all the comments. I get back to about 80 or 90% of them. At least I give them a thumbs up. Usually, if you want to say something and get my attention, leave a comment. We'd love to hear from you. So thank you, Andrew. Definitely. Were you about to say something?
Oh, I do try and get to as many of the comments as I can, try to read them. My time for actually reading is a little short, but I do try.
And Eddie's here. Good to see you, Eddie. Thank you, Native Atheist, Daryl. And there's been a lot of DeFreak. A lot of you guys have been there. Normally, I don't do those shout outs in overtime, but this has been a unique overtime. It started with his Andring stroking his gun and just went south from there. And if you think I'm joking, go back to the beginning of the stream. I'm not.
Well, we were going to talk about kind of a depressing topic, a natural disaster in the Pacific Northwest. And, of course, I'm known as the crazy right-wing gun guy, and I just imagine that's what people picture me doing in the evenings, is sitting there fondling my crazy, horrible assault rifle AR-15. And
that's what you were doing when I got back to the lobby. Okay. Yeah. It's the AR-15 style.
Because you just left me there with nothing to do.
My bad. Sorry. Had to go. But I came back and you were literally, he had his AR-15 style rifle. We'll call it an AR-15. And he was just literally stroking it right on I was just like, oh, dear Lord, I'm glad we're not live. And then we go live and he's doing it anyway. So thank you all for joining us. And, so if you're going to be at the Faithless Forum, hit me up. I'd love to see you guys. Like I said, I'm going to be leaving tomorrow. We are still going to be covering shows, but since both Xander and I are going to be largely unavailable for most of tomorrow, it's going to be hit or miss. I wanted to cover the verdict live. My suspicion is it's tomorrow. I kind of hope it's tomorrow, but if it's tomorrow, the chances are we won't be covering it live. So apologies in advance if we do miss it. We'll cover it as soon as we can, and we'll put our usual spin and discussion on it. There's opinions run very strongly in many directions on this, as Andrew and I each also have our opinions on it, which we will be happy to once again get into when that verdict comes in. The Aubrey trial is another one. We're not going to be a legal channel, but we do cover that stuff from time to time when it's important. And the Aubrey case is another one that's difficult. So, but in the meantime, like I said, we'll stay on top of that. We'll see what happens with this next week in time. So we're going to be doing our regular overtime and in time next week as well. Thank you all for joining us. Is Andrew any final words or final thoughts?
All I can say is if you have the ability to, this is one of the things that I think that we should be doing ourselves, and not so much government. Help out the people who have been affected.
Crap. I really hate it when I end up agreeing with Xandering. He's right. Thank you all for joining us, and we will catch up with you later. Good night.